Tired of studying grammar for hours and still feeling misunderstood during real conversations? Let's fix that today by learning 4 simple tips to change everything. Let's go.
Hey Liam, have you ever spoken English correctly, used the right words, and still felt like people didn't completely understand what you were trying to say?
Of course, Emma. Many English learners experience exactly that. That's because real communication is about much more than just grammar and vocabulary.
Wow, if grammar and vocabulary aren't the whole story, what's usually causing that uncomfortable feeling during conversations?
The biggest problem is that learners focus so much on speaking correctly that they completely forget to focus on communicating clearly.
Oh, I see. What usually happens when someone becomes obsessed with speaking perfect English during a real conversation?
Their attention shifts completely away from the listener and toward their own performance. They're trapped in their own heads.
Does that mean some learners already know enough English, but they simply don't communicate effectively?
Sure. Many learners actually know way more English than they realize, but they struggle to use it naturally.
So, what are we going to discover together in this lesson to help everyone communicate more clearly?
We're going to explore 4 simple habits that can make your spoken English clearer almost immediately.
Awesome! And why should people stay until the very end instead of stopping after the first few tips?
Because the final habit, the missing piece that completely transforms how you sound in conversations.
That makes sense. But going back to the pressure, when English learners start speaking, what kinds of thoughts are usually running through their minds?
It's total chaos. Many learners are constantly overthinking their grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, and sentence structure all at the same time.
It sounds exhausting. Why does the brain create so much pressure during what should be a simple conversation?
Because the brain treats speaking as a high-stakes performance instead of just a tool for communication.
Totally. What are some examples of the questions learners silently ask themselves while they're speaking?
They're constantly wondering, is my grammar right? Did I choose the correct tense? Or do I sound fluent enough? It's a non-stop inner monologue.
Is there a simple way to picture what that stressful experience actually feels like in everyday life?
Imagine driving a car while checking every single mirror every second, instead of just watching the road. You'd get totally stressed, distracted, and way less effective as a driver.
Wow! How is that messy scenario similar to what happens during real English conversations?
Well, learners monitor every single word so closely that they completely stop focusing on the actual message.
Oh, I see. What should learners actually focus on instead when they are speaking with someone?
They should focus entirely on delivering a clear message. It's way more about getting your idea across than overanalyzing your grammar.
That makes total sense. Can you give us a quick example of that in real life?
Sure. Many learners use long, overly formal expressions. Someone might say, I have been studying English for approximately 3 years, when they could simply say, I've been learning English for 3 years.
I love that. What simple technique can help learners stay focused and organized while they are speaking?
I highly recommend using what I call the 7-second rule. And that's actually our very first tip today.
That sounds intriguing. What exactly is the 7-second rule and how does it work?
It's simple. Try to communicate just one complete idea in about 7 seconds or less.
Got it. And what should happen right after expressing that one complete idea?
Just pause briefly, take a breath, and then move on to the next idea.
But wait, Why is that small pause so incredibly important for effective communication?
Because that tiny pause gives both you and the listener the time you actually need to process the message.
That's a good point, but many learners worry that pausing makes them sound less fluent. What would you say to them?
I'd say that strategic pauses actually make you sound way more confident, professional, and in control.
Awesome. Could you show us how this 7-second rule actually works in a practical example?
Absolutely. Instead of forcing one long, exhausting sentence, you just break your message. They could say, "I wanted to learn English for one reason," and then pause.
Okay, so what would come next right after that second pause?
They could simply say, "I loved movies and music," and then take another brief pause.
Got it. And how could they finish the whole thought clearly?
They could wrap it up by saying, "I wanted to understand them better."
Wow. Why does that broken down version feel so much easier to follow than one long sentence?
Because each small idea has room to breathe, and the listener never gets lost in the middle of it.
That makes sense. But how does that actually help the speaker psychologically during a live conversation?
The speaker feels way less pressure because they only have to focus on one single idea at a time.
That's a game changer. Could this exact technique also help learners who get super nervous during presentations or meetings?
Absolutely, because it instantly creates a clear structure and completely reduces that awful cognitive overload.
That's amazing. So tell me now, how can learners start building real confidence in practical daily situations?
Well, the problem is that they often create massive, unnecessary pressure and make communication way harder by spending too much time overthinking whether their answer sounds perfect.
Oh, totally. What would be a much healthier way to approach conversations in English then?
You just need to treat every single conversation as an opportunity to connect, rather than a stressful performance.
I love that shift. How does that change in perspective actually affect fluency?
It allows your ideas to flow much more naturally, because fear completely loses control over your speech.
You know, once someone told me that repeated phrases deserve special attention. Is that actually true?
Oh, absolutely. Repetition is key because it often reveals the exact patterns that native speakers actually use in real life.
That makes sense. But how can someone tell whether a specific phrase is really worth learning?
It's simple. If it appears frequently and helps you express common, everyday ideas, it is definitely worth learning.
Awesome. What are some of those powerful chunks that can instantly improve our everyday conversations?
Everyday phrases like, "sounds good," "I agree," "not really," and "that's a good point" are extremely useful. Just focus on one at a time and start using it immediately.
True. But why do learners sometimes totally avoid simple phrases, even when they already know them?
Mostly because they worry that using simple language will somehow make them appear less advanced or less intelligent.
I've definitely felt that way. What happens when learners just collect phrases like a hobby without actually using them?
Their passive knowledge grows like crazy, but their actual communication skills don't improve at the same speed.
Right. So how can someone create more real opportunities to use these new phrases and expressions?
You can easily slide them into casual conversations, daily self-talk, voice recordings, or any kind of speaking practice.
That's a good tip. But why is active speaking practice so essential, even for learners who already understand a ton of English?
Because understanding language and producing it are two completely different skills. Speaking requires real-time muscle memory and fast decision-making.
So true. But how can learners recognize their own improvement, especially when progress feels so slow?
You just have to look for the small wins. Shorter pauses, faster responses, and feeling way more comfortable during conversations.
I love that perspective. Why are those tiny signs so worth celebrating?
Because those small improvements accumulate into major communication breakthroughs before you even realize it.
That sounds amazing. Can we do a super quick recap of the 4 tips we covered today, just to make sure we didn't miss anything?
Absolutely. The very first tip was the 7-second rule, breaking your thoughts down and speaking in short, clear ideas instead of forcing one long, exhausting sentence.
Right. And that naturally leads to the second tip, which is strategic pausing. Giving yourself and the listener a brief second to breathe and process the message.
Exactly. The third habit was that crucial shift in mindset, treating every conversation as a real opportunity to connect with someone rather than a high-stakes performance where you have to be perfect.
I love that one so much. And finally, the fourth tip, focusing on powerful everyday chunks, like sounds good or that's a good point, and actually using them immediately instead of just collecting grammar rules.
Spot on, Emma. If you combine these 4 simple tips, your English will sound way more natural, and you'll finally communicate clearly.
Wow, Liam, these 4 tips are definitely going to help everyone speak way more clearly. But what if someone's biggest struggle is just staying consistent and not giving up after 2 weeks?
That is actually the missing puzzle piece, Emma. To make all of this work, you need to turn English into a habit you can't break, something as automatic as brushing your teeth.
That sounds exactly like what we need next. How can we actually build a bulletproof routine like that?
Well, I just made a complete guide on exactly how to do that. It's appearing right now on the screen. Just click right here to discover how to make English an unbreakable part of your daily life.
Awesome. Click on the screen right now and we'll see you over there. Bye.
Bye.